Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of Sports Entertainment Weekly for the week ending on October 21st, which is a lovely Saturday. We are in the middle of a World Cup week, so we are pretty much halfway through the fixtures. I think we are at game 20 at the end of this week out of 45 games. And along with that, of course, we have the international break for football. So we are going to quickly get a recap of where the teams are, what are all the fixtures that we can look forward to from tonight, considering the friendlies have ended and league football is going to be back from literally today. And lastly, we'll take a look at WWE and what went down in Raw last week and what we can look ahead in Crown Jewel. Hey Dave, hey Gandalf, hey Vias.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. With that, I'm
The
gonna
first
move
time we
to.
have all four been on the stream.
Oh
So
yes,
momentous
hey,
day.
true. Feels like we have finally arrived. Right. So World Cup, league tables, Raw, and Crown Jewel. As you see, there is no SmackDown because SmackDown happened today, like a couple of hours back, and none of us, neither me nor Gandalf, or they had an opportunity to process and then put together something. So we are skipping SmackDown for now. And yeah, last week in cricket. So Gandalf, just take it away. This is right there in your wheelhouse. Um, we had a lot of interesting results, I should say. The cherry on top of the cake being Netherlands beating South Africa, which nobody expected, followed by another upset by Afghanistan, or maybe I guess that was probably the Sunday right before that. Take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's been a really an eventful week, if I should say that, in the Cricket World Cup. Two upsets. I was just predicting on Twitter that we'll have probably one upset in the form of Afghanistan and England, and then the other upset I was actually predicting was Australia beating Sri Lanka, which I was really rooting for Sri Lanka in that because of the way Australia had played in the previous matches and how they struggled against balls that were slow and turning a bit. But yeah, I mean, it was just in lighter vein that Australia beat Sri Lanka, and that's clearly not an upset. They are world champions, and that's also getting back at Sri Lanka for 1996. So absolutely, a very interesting roller coaster week in cricket. The way that Netherlands played the game and came back after being five down, 80 odd, right,
Oh
and all
yeah,
the way till 240 plus. That's a crazy comeback, even for really good teams and full-time nations. Not just speaking of associate nation cricket, right? Like this is a sort of comeback that we have seen with someone like MS Dhoni playing in the lower order, or someone like
oh
Michael Bevan
yes,
in the
yes,
lower
yes.
middle order. Moving from 80 for 5 or 6 wickets to all the way to 250 odd, right? So I think South Africa probably lost the game there, and such a momentum when some team which you expect to beat and when such teams play like that, that momentum actually carries on into the next innings as well, and that's what we saw exactly with Netherlands and South Africa. With England and Afghanistan, I think it was always I
Uh,
think we have
Gandalf,
come to, yeah.
before you move to that, so I watched the South Africa and Netherlands game. I just wanted to add something there. If you recall the game, so towards the end, mathematically, it was still a possibility for South Africa up until the last two overs. But the way that Netherlands held themselves together, the calm and composure for an associate nation, and led by Vandermerview of all people, who actually played for South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, in the previous World Cup. That was
Absolutely.
so poetic, and you should have seen them in the field. Like, if the situation were reversed, I can bet that South Africa, given their history, they would have just strayed like four wides down the leg side, There would have been two no balls, just so many loose deliveries. Like Netherlands would have actually, actively threatened to come back into the game, and we might have had a closer finish. But the way Netherlands held it together, like they were electric on the field, and they just choked South Africa. Right? It
Yeah,
was only
and
a
to be
matter of
honest, it did seem like an upset, right? I
yeah,
mean, usually upsets are where the game runs close,
yeah,
but from the from a certain point in the South African innings, it seemed like Netherlands were dominating and they are going to win it.
mm,
They were on track to
exactly.
win it,
Yeah,
and
like
I think
even when
credit
they,
to uh,
yeah, their captain and
Ye-
the veterans in the squad.
Scott
Yeah,
Edwards,
I
and he was an Australian, by the way. I mean, he's an Australian Dutch player, and you have two South Africans in the team, Van der Merwe and I think one more. And these folks were almost similar to how the Irish team beat England with Owen Morgan and all of those
Right.
folks who then went on to play for England as well. So like Ed Joyce and Owen Morgan. So these guys have played for both countries, right? So it's in a way similar to that kind of situation. But I think purely because of some of the key players in Netherlands who have international experience with a play, a bigger, a full-time nation like South Africa or any other country for that matter. Yep. Dave, you was trying to say something.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to talk about the South African batting for about a couple of minutes because I didn't watch the first innings. I tuned in for the second innings and I saw a batting collapse for South Africa in the initial stages of the game. Because if uh, considering the sort of batting lineup they have, they shouldn't lose these many quick wickets within this short period of time to spin bowling. There was also a point of time I remember commenting with this with a friend of mine, and we were watching the game together. That there the for some reason the South African batting feels way too dependent on say a quick Quinton de Kock half century or Temba Bavuma to play a longer innings or Markram to steady the ship. When your reliable batsmen are Quinton de Kock, Bavuma, and Markram, I feel like they themselves are not consistent enough to be the consistent people in that batting lineup. Like, am I reading the game right, or uh, is it not that great of a batting lineup in itself?
No, I think we judged a little too quickly. The batting lineup was always a little shaky, right? And as you called out, they over reliant on a few players, like two or three players. We've seen that with Pakistan as well, like over reliant on Babar Azam or Rizwan or who's the one at the
Iftikhar.
top, Abdullah Shafiq. Yeah, Abdullah Shafiq
Iftikhar,
to
I think.
open and give a start. Yeah, so I think it's the case with teams that are probably getting exposed in the middle end of the tournament and probably against quality attacks. I would say Netherlands bowling was really good on that day, and they put South Africa under the pump and pressure right away. Once they got the first wicket, and I think South Africa choked. You're right, and to their uh, previous history and going by the previous World Cups and other things, South Africa actually choked.
Yeah. So I think with that we'll move on to the next game. So what else do we have here? India versus Bangladesh. So proper one-sided contest. So it's almost a given when you put India to chase with Kohli, the kind of nick that he is in. I let VS, the amateur India
Yeah,
fan in the house,
uh,
take it from
obviously
here.
happy about India snatching the win there. And yeah, like you said, Kriska, it did not really challenge the Indian batting order, the total that Bangladesh put up. And with Indian team, there is a certain factor that we discussed right about now, but that is actually not coming into play because we discussed the team being dependent on two or three batsmen to carry the whole innings. And it has been the case for India as well, if you look at it, because every single match it has been the pair Rohit Sharma or Kohli or both of them together, and we win the match. But then the case just so happens that these guys are extremely dependable so far in this tournament. That yes, we are depending on them to see us through, but they always keep delivering. So we do not really know if on a match or if on a day when Rohit Sharma and Kohli both fails to hit a double-digit score, let's say, we might still get through. We have a very deep batting lineup, but Kandalf, I think it has not been tested yet. These guys have been lifting the load almost single-handedly and seeing us through every match. So I do look forward to see what happens if Kohli and Rohit were both to fail on a bad day.
Yeah, I think that's everyone's fear as well.
Uh-huh.
Chris, I'll just make this point. I think
Yeah.
everyone's fear is that what if there is an early collapse or even a middle order collapse? The lower order is not tested against pressure situations. These guys have been holding the fort. Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, KL Rahul. The batting
KL
order has
Rahul,
not
yeah.
moved beyond that point. And just for perspective, I think I'll bring in 2003, 2007 Australian teams. Not the 99 Australian team, which was competing well and they really fought well from behind to actually win the cup. But 2003, 2007, Australia was almost like, if I remember correctly, Glenn McGrath never got a chance to bat and in that entire two World Cups or something like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but one of the number 10 or 11, I think either of them or both of them did not get a chance to bat the entire tournament. So what
And they
if
won
a
both the
similar
tournaments.
yeah, they won both the tournaments, and there were a couple of matches where they were tested in that regard. Especially the 2003 World Cup, Port Elizabeth was a bowling track. It was seaming, swinging, and Australia was struggling against England, and also I think in one of the matches against Sri Lanka, New Zealand, and that's when the lower order people like Andy Bichel. I'm not sure who how many of you remember Andy Bichel. He was probably a one-day international star at that point, and he couldn't break into the Australian lineup because it was already strong with Gillespie, McGrath, Brett Lee, and Shane Warne, right? So Andy Bichel actually partnered with Michael Bevan and a few other lower-order batsmen at that point to save Australia from defeats in those matches against England or New Zealand or Sri Lanka, one of these teams. So I think India is in a similar situation where that's going to be tested. If in a knockout or in a very key match, if the middle order fails, is there someone like a Jadeja who can actually, of course, we all know Jadeja's credentials. He has done that in the past, but is there someone who's ready to actually rise up to that occasion and partner with the tailenders to win matches for India? So that's going to be tested.
Nice. I have a question here. So when we talk about team balance and the entire team needing to fire on all cylinders, are we slightly, overemphasizing on that fact? Like if you look at 2011 World Cup, for example, so many games, Yuvraj won that single-handedly for India. So Sri Lanka, who made the finals, Dilshan was their top scorer, and Dilshan and Taranga, I think they had like at least 2 to 300+ partnerships. And finals, I think Mahela Jayawardena chipped in, who was not particularly, in excellent form in the lead up to that. And 2015 World Cup, I think Michael Clark was in good touch. And I don't know, Gandalf, we can probably talk about the openers or something.
Yeah, 2015 World Cup, everyone was in good touch. It was home turf. And I think the last few World Cups, right, especially since 2011, I feel that home teams have had good advantage, and they have gone on to win it, of course, 2011, 15,
See,
19.
my point is, I feel like historically we have only had like 2 or 3 standout batsmen plus 1 or 2, godly spells coming in at the right time. So I don't think like a team has to fire on all cylinders. So the reason I'm bringing that up is I don't see, contrary to what all of us predicted, we did the prediction episode before. Contrary to all of that, I don't think India is actually in trouble. I think that when
not at all, not at all. Yeah, I mean we are just nitpicking and calling out certain things, but India is definitely like an overwhelming favorite to win the tournament.
Quality side that have their bases covered, and I think it's just hindsight bias on all of our part. Like all of us were crying that India didn't have a balanced lineup and everything. But that said, Hardik Pandya out of the lineup. It's the first game that he's out in the last when you look at the last four matches,
Yes.
he's a doubt for the next game. So I guess there, for the first time, India will have to do some thinking, because unlike the batting lineup where if one of them steps out, you have a quality able replacement like for like pretty much in terms of the contribution they can make. Hardik Pandya is that ultimate X factor in the Indian team, uh, who you don't have a replacement really. So with him out, maybe that's going to be a challenge, especially considering they're gonna face the giant table toppers New Zealand. But yes, I will reserve my judgment for India's middle order or non-firing players. I think they simply haven't gotten the opportunity, so I don't think that they are non-firing per se. So, and yes,
Yeah,
before we
I
move
think
on to
India's bowling lineup makes up for everything else. I
yeah,
think it's probably the most rounded bowling lineup that I've seen
exactly.
in an Indian
Uh,
cricket team in a long time. Like you have variety, you have line and length, you have sheer pace in Bumrah, and then you have absolute world class
what the
spinners in
monsters in Jadeja and
yeah,
Ashwin.
yeah. And I wouldn't have used these superlatives for Kuldeep Yadav, but he has really grown leaps and bounds in the last 1 year plus in terms of his line and length. I mean, it's a very cliche term, but then he's really pulled back the length, learned to bowl slightly quicker in the limited overs format. As against other Chinaman bowlers or leg spinners who used to toss it up. If you look at the previous decade, people would probably toss it up, be a little more aggressive, and then invite the batsman for coming up and driving the ball and things like that. But these days you will get clobbered. You probably will go at 8 runs per over if you actually do that. So ball flatter, quicker. That's the way to go for. I think even Adam Zampa bringing that into the question. So even Adam Zampa has probably figured that out in the last couple of matches, and that's actually good news for Australia. And good segue into that match review as well. So Australia has had really an absolutely brilliant, last few days. 2 wins in 2 matches after the initial hiccups, losing 2 matches against really good teams, and that's largely due to Zampa coming back and Hazelwood bowling like a dream. And of course, there's David Warner's comeback as well. But then the bowling has probably figured itself out. Cummins is still patchy, but then over to you, gentlemen. What do you think? Oh, I can't hear anyone. Is there anyone speaking?
I'll go. So I was just looking for this tweet that I had, actually posted during the game, right? So when Australia was playing, like everybody knows how Gandalf and I tweet when an Australia game is going on. There is a lot of ups and downs. Like every game feels like a heart attack. It's almost like watching a Barca game. Dave knows what I'm talking about. There is this very specific quote that I had, quote tweeted somebody saying like, count count out a phoenix at your own peril, right? It is always gonna find its way back uh, to the flames. So Australia was down and out, and even with the Sri Lanka game, at one point they were threatening to take the game away, like some 120 plus at least for the opening stand. And thankfully, fate intervened quite literally when the play had to be stopped, and that at that point you could literally sense like a change in the body language in the team, right? Australia were like, okay, this is not us. Like, we are Australia, we are the 5-time world champions, we are not going to be on the back foot. And that mentality they have not let go from that moment until yesterday when they strangled Pakistan for what turned out to be a comfortable win.
Yeah, actually, they were threatening to take it away in the first 20 overs or plus. And I think yeah, the start that Pakistan got, until the breakthrough happened through Marcus Stoinis, he's actually a good, decent partnership breaker, if you ask me. And I think they were actually going at a good speed. But then great teams are about breaking those partnerships, taking the momentum away from winning, a chasing team, and then winning the match like as if it was a dominant win, right? So in the end, it turned out to be like a clinical win, I would say.
I have a question for our resident Australia fans. Does the middle order, Australian middle order, still bother you in a way? Because it didn't function. Like even in yesterday's match, apart from the two top order big centuries by the two top order batsmen, by Mitch Marsh and David Warner, which is good to see David Warner firing again on all cylinders. Does the middle order still worry you? Middle order, lower middle order, that wicketkeeper batsman problem which Australia faces
If I
quite
look at
often.
if I look at how Australia has played for many years, I mean, it's just probably me. The perception is that generally when they get to great starts, they tend to have slightly slower finishes, and they get to an absolute as you call wonderful start off to a flyer and first 30 overs. Then actually they tend to actually slow down in the middle order. So if they have early collapses, let's say David Warner went out for a duck and probably Mitch Marsh goes out for 10 runs, then Steven Smith and Marnus Labuschagne or someone would have actually stood up. So that's how all of the Australian teams that I've seen have played. It's probably something to do with their mindset. They
Yeah,
probably get complacent. But yesterday was a disastrous finish. To be honest, they were actually going for 400, but like 100 odd runs and 9 wickets down in the last 20 overs or something.
yeah.
That was crazy.
Gandalf, so I think you and I know this, right? This is not the first time, this is not the last time. Anyone who has followed Australia the last 3 4 years remotely know that, like, I would have tweeted the same thing about the middle order, like, at least 10 times by this point. I see, this is why I think the problem is coming. There are two cases. When there is a collapse, you have amazing anchors like Steve Smith and Labuschagne, who are world class, probably the best at what they do, right? So they know how to go from a 14 for 2 to a respectable 250 for 7 or 250 for 8 or even 280, which gives their bowlers a fighting chance. So this lineup knows how to do that. And but when on the other hand, when you have a rocking start like how they had yesterday, right? Like 200 odd runs in like 25 overs, and I think the think tank themselves, do not know who to send out. For example, they sent out Maxwell at one down when the first wicket fell. Maxwell is not a 20 over player, like however good he is. He has to come in at the 7 over mark. When I say 7 over, I mean 7 overs from the 50, right? So, and Labuschagne came at 45th over or something, or whenever, that big finish is needed. Now you see where that problem is, right? Like, they I see where they're coming from. They want to capitalize on the momentum when it's 200 runs on the board, and they want Maxwell to come and just start smacking from ball one. But it's simply not gonna happen, unless we are talking about a 20 over game. In 50 overs, Maxwell simply doesn't know how to pace himself. There are odd days where he kind of outdoes himself, but that is not his routine. So what happens is you have an amazing start, you have a middle order that chokes, then you usually rely on a Pat Cummins or a Mitchell Stark who have zero expectations on them being bowlers. They come in and they smack like 35 runs from 20 balls or something. Who the X factor who gives that balance to the lineup is Travis Head. He is somebody who can play in both 14 for 2 situation as well as 350 for 7 and take me to 400. And that's the guy that Australia has been sorely missing throughout this tournament. Hopefully,
And
him
he's
coming back
expected to
means,
make he's expected to make a return in the Netherlands
yeah,
game. And
and
I know, but speaking of Maxwell, he's actually bowling like he has never bowled. He's stemming the flow of runs and also picking up crucial wickets at times. So he's so that's that. So just closing on cricket, I think currently a game between Netherlands and Sri Lanka going on. Netherlands really looking steady after initial loss of wickets. What's with the game tomorrow, guys? Where do you think India is going to be? Against New Zealand. So is it because this is not an advertised rivalry? but this game is probably a prelude to what's coming in the later stages of the tournament. It could be a possible semi-final scenario as well. or,
Yeah, this also
or
happens to be our bogey team. Usually, they are the guys who get the better of us in ICC tournaments, and they have good history, and it's part of their legacy of beating India, however bad they are. But
Yep.
then, since this is in the group stage, I think India will win this one. If it were a semi-final, Kandalf, I would be worried. But yeah, now that India are already topping the group, our team loves to have that unbeatable aura upon us until they have it no
Until
more.
knockouts.
So I do think New Zealand will lose this one and India will win, provided that India are chasing. If India are batting first, it could be an even contest, which I would still say favors India. But if India chases this game versus New Zealand, I'm gonna sit back with a packet of Lays and watch as we breeze to victory.
I have a
I
question. Is
think they're
Williamson
like
playing?
yeah, there were doubts about Williamson, so not sure if he's playing. We need to
So I
wait.
think my prediction depends on that. So I
Yeah.
agree with VS,
See,
but I want to
whether
go
there's
out
whether there's Williamson or not, I think New Zealand team with anyone,
and
they can
somehow
surprise people. And we were expecting India to win the WTC championship, a couple of years back, hands down, right, against New Zealand. But then
Yep.
they came up out of with a normal average team that they always had, and beat like the best Indian Test cricket side for a long time, just like that.
Yeah, so it feels
So
scandalous to say this, but I think New Zealand will cause an upset, in this
yeah.
game. I think this is the game that India's batting lineup is kind of do that customary fall that, they should have done at least once by this point in the tournament.
I agree with Chris here. Like, it's also a part of my generally fatalistic nature, but I think that India is probably losing tomorrow's game. I hope for a good game though, like because it's two elite teams going up against each other. But a couple of factors are working against India as well. The lack of Hardik Pandya in the team really affects Indian bowling, I would say, because he's the partnership breaker, so to speak. Like he comes in, he takes up very crucial wickets. I'm not exactly sure if India will be able to replace him, especially in the bowling lineup. Batting, I think India will be fine, but if India is not able to break certain partnerships, take certain wickets, which Hardik Pandya does, I think it will be a tough game for India
Okay.
to win.
Quickly closing cricket. So I'm going with India winning this. Dave's going with New Zealand. Chris, who's your pick?
I want to say
Even
New
for
Zealand.
Okay. VS.
India, man, I think we're edging
Yeah,
this.
I
I
think
don't think it's going to be a
so.
problem.
So this
So it's
panel is
2-2,
divided
huh?
two
So it's
each.
Dave
Yeah.
and I saying, okay, cool, we'll see. All right, let's move on. Football. VS and Dave. We haven't spoken football in a while. I think we can go on to that. Gandalf, can you help us with? Yes. Oh, yeah. Before that, let's just take a quick look at the table for cricket once. So, just can we zoom that in? What does it mean if? Okay, so whoever wins in this contest is gonna be clear table toppers, perfect 5 out of 5. And what is the other game this weekend? Bangladesh against. I think we have fixtures in the next one. Wait, let me check. Netherlands versus Sri Lanka, England versus South Africa. That's a good
Yeah,
game.
England are playing South Africa today. That's going to be a cracker.
Yeah.
My bet's on England winning it and South Africa going down the table.
Yeah,
like they
I want to
should.
say
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think all four of us will agree that England is winning this one.
Yeah. And Netherlands, Sri Lanka, I feel that it will be a close game. It's going on currently. Netherlands have come back really nicely after being 5 down. They are putting up
Wow.
almost 80, 90 run partnership, almost 100 run partnership now for the 7th wicket. And they are 188 in 41 overs.
Wow.
There are still nine overs down. So if they get anywhere plus 250 plus, they are going to challenge Sri Lanka bowling.
I
second.
I would bet on Netherlands winning this because the way I see it, the only thing worse than Sri Lanka's economy right now is their cricket team. So easy pickings.
Dark humor there, VS. Dark humor.
No, just dark, no humor. Just...
All right then.
So
Yes,
nothing
I
much
think
has
last
happened in
week in
football in
football
the
was
last week, right?
straightforward. Yeah, nothing
But
has
then a lot
happened.
of
We are
things
not going to
are
cover the
going to
international
happen.
fixtures.
Nothing much has happened, but we are looking
Going to
forward
happen.
to some real good content over
Yeah.
here.
So exactly, I just wanted us to kind of have a refresher on where things are ahead of this weekend's game.
Yeah.
Spurs at the top of the table.
Yeah,
It
it's like
That's
doesn't
seeing
that,
an
that meme,
elephant.
Triska, one of your favorite.
mean
What is
what
a
is
polar bear
I
doing
know,
in
right?
Arlington, Texas?
In Arlington, Texas. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
all-time
No,
favorite
but then
team.
actually they're not
And
very well off the place. They're a good team under a good coach, playing in a solid structure. So I don't expect them to be on top of the table when the season winds to a conclusion.
uh-huh.
But this is a team that's very well solid, and their ranking on the first of the league also is because of the
I
fixtures that has already happened.
Yeah, I
They
would say
faced
it's
the North
slightly
London Derby,
misleading.
but apart from that, they haven't been really challenged as well. It
Yeah,
will get tougher for them through the course of the season, and I expect them to drop down a couple places. But
exactly.
this is a team that will most likely play Champions League next season from a very competitive top 10 side in PL. Because if you look at the top 10 in PL right now, almost apart from City and maybe Pool on certain days, anybody are beating anybody. So
He said
it's up for
top
grabs,
10.
and they will be grabbing their spot.
You know who
I think
doesn't
you are
comment when I
giving.
say top 10 sides? Yes.
I think he is giving a little bit too much credit to United, calling,
Uh,
saying that
They're
United can beat anyone of
they're
the
at number 10, aren't they?
top 10.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Khandalf, the team that you supported growing up, they are in the worst phase
I
that
can
they
see
can
them at
possibly
number 10.
be.
I'm not shocked given the recent few years that I've seen them perform.
He has gotten used to it at this
The
point.
I mean, to be
They
very honest
they're
and
not
very
fighting
frank,
relegation.
the
Cool.
environment and the surrounding that United has found themselves in, not just in
Yeah.
terms of sporting, but off the pitch incidents and overall dressing room toxicity, 10 is overachieving. So they are not exactly a very solid squad in terms of depth and quality. The squad is in complete disarray and has been there has been a lot of vile accusations and problems at United, which are probably not just accusations at this point. So, Khandalf, I think United being at 10 are lucky.
Yeah, I think we'll need to do a full SEU special episode on United to talk about everything about United,
Yeah, there's a
which
lot
is a
to
lot.
cover. Yep.
That,
So, apart from
hey,
that, the
speaking
biggest
of
good news,
which, we are
guys, I
actually doing
think
that.
I'm sorry, Chris. I'll just cover this. So
Sure,
we're
sure,
talking
sure.
about international breaks coming to an end, and it's late October. So the best thing about football is that peak football season starts here. We are done with international breaks. We are done with unwanted, stupid tournaments. Now we are going to have PL, La Liga, all the top five leagues every week in, week out. And then there's also going to be Champions League on a midweek daily basis, Europa League, and towards December, we are going to have football like every 2 days. So football season is here, guys, and I hope all of you football fans are as excited as I am going forward into this. Kriska, over to you, mate.
Yeah, so speaking of United, I just wanted to call out our next CU special that we are doing. So we are calling it the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Premier League as things stand. So for this, we picked three clubs. I'll just talk about good, and probably each one of you can take the bad. BS, you can take the bad. Dave, you can take the ugly. You'll see in a moment why I assigned in that specific order. So the good is, of course, Tottenham. Like we pointed out before, their place is slightly misleading because there was that whole VAR debacle with Liverpool, a game that, under normal circumstances, Liverpool might have actually won, which Tottenham ended up winning. and a win over their direct Champions League rival like that is obviously going to help them leapfrog a couple of places in the table. So if you account for all of that, I agree with VS. Tottenham is going to get pegged back at least by 2 3 spots by December. Don't even wait for March or April. That said, right now everything seems to be right going right when it comes to Tottenham, and we want to cover that. So they are the good of the Premier League. VS, take it away for the bad of the Premier League.
Okay, so not exactly happy to cover this, but then the bad of the Premier League is. Oh, I can't bring myself to say this. The bad of Premier League is apparently the club that I support, Chelsea, and I'm using the term apparently pretty judiciously because Chelsea are bad. It's not just the place on the table where they are 10th or 11th that is making it bad, but in our point of view, it is the way the team has been assembled because this is a completely new squad. It's not exactly a team. It's a set of 11 strangers coming together and deciding to play football on a weekend. So we do think that the transfer plans, as expensive and as flashy as it has also been a bit ragtag and not exactly very structured. So this team has potential, but it's scattered all over the place, making it sadly bad. And now for ugly, and Deva, I don't know why you get ugly today, especially after your new haircut, but take it over.
Yeah,
We just wanted you to talk about Chelsea, man. That's all.
yeah. No, as bad as my haircut is, I don't think it's as bad as United currently. When we mention it as ugly, that means it's ugly throughout. It's ugly off the pitch. It's ugly on the pitch. There was we can talk about a lot of things. We can talk about the failed takeover from the Saudis. We can talk about the misconduct allegations on different players. We can talk of the falling out which Eric Ten Hag has had with his own players like Jadon Sancho. We can talk about the results. They have been quite horrific, really. I think this is the worst start United has had in a recent history, not even recent history, even in that past. I think some 50 60 years, this is their worst Premier League start to a season. So dissecting that will take some time. I would say we'll need about 45 minutes to dissect each and every part. I think we need to go point wise, off the field, on the field. Is there a coaching problem? Because there's a most likely a coaching problem there as well. So yes, quite ugly throughout. And we'll likely
Yeah.
cover this in the near future as well.
Fun part is we are inviting fans, guys. So we're gonna have first outside guests for the show. So we have identified United fan like from Europe. Slightly misleading. It's just somebody from my hometown who currently lives in Europe. We're gonna dissect the United situation with them. We have identified a Spurs fan thanks to the Bangalore Spurs fan club or something on Twitter. And for Chelsea, well, we have the in-house depressant in VS. I don't, I don't know. We'll take a call on if we need some folks to dampen the mood. With that, let's move on to La Liga. Ha! Sight that you don't want to see in 100 years. Madrid at the top of the table.
But one that you
So-
see a lot.
Yeah. So,
Girona as second is the shocker, I suppose. No one expected in La Liga. You would expect an Atletico Madrid or even an Athletic club being in that top four position, but Girona have done really well. I think they have the same sort of issue which Spurs have had. They have had slightly easier fixture. I don't expect them to remain as lofty in the table as they are right now, but I think they will fall back to that 7th, 8th place. But
okay.
even a 7th or 8th finish is going to be immense for Girona, and it makes me happy because it's a Catalan club as well. So hopefully at the end of the season we won't see
Hey,
Girona above Barcelona.
yes. So, between La Liga and Premier League, what I see is the Premier League table, sorry, the La Liga table actually uh, looks as it should, right? Like, I think everyone's there because they deserve to be there. Be it Madrid or Girona or Barcelona, who have had quite a few slip ups unexpectedly. Atletico Madrid. I think Sevilla being as low was definitely a shocker. But again, that's not a surprise given all the off field financial issues that they have had thanks to the dictator of president that we have. Yes, VS.
Talking about Girona having, it's pronounced Girona or Girona, Deba. It's Spanish, right?
Hey,
Girona.
Dave. I took a
Girona.
Spanish class once. Let me clarify. It's Herona.
It's Hirona. Okay. So I just want to say that you guys mentioning about Hirona having comparatively easier fixtures is partly correct, but not entirely, because they have had easy fixtures which they won, which is what's putting them second on the table. But then again, they have also played, I think, Real Madrid and Villarreal, two tough fixtures, and they have lost both, which is why I meant that you guys are partly correct. So they have had two tough fixtures and they have lost both, and they lost both pretty comprehensively because they did not really put up a challenge against Madrid or even against Villarreal. So again, that's a polar bear in Arlington, Texas, and it would be soon migrating further north in terms of US geography. So we can expect Girona somewhere between 4 to 8 at best. So second is not sustainable for them at least.
I think not much else in La Liga. We'll hopefully have a lot more once the fixtures come back up. And Serie A, let's take a quick look at the table. Honestly, I don't have much in terms of inputs. I know there is one tracker of a game coming up for at the top of the table. And we'll just close this quickly, and Gandalf has something to say. So Serie A, hey, they want to spend time on this, or just move on and focus on the upcoming fixtures.
Not much. I think it's a very expected table with
Yeah,
Milan, Inter, and Juventus. It's surprising to see Napoli fifth, but I think Napoli will find their way into top
back
four as well
exactly.
eventually.
Yes, I agree with you.
And that leaves us with Bundesliga. Again, Dortmund at the top of the table. I honestly don't know what to make of it. But again, they know the drill. They'll be right there warming up the table, top position for Bayern, and then just pave way with flowers and petals
Yeah,
when it's
I'm,
due.
I'm,
yeah.
I'm
I
totally
don't.
predicting Leverkusen to give them a run for their money.
Mhm. Where do you
Yeah,
put
Leverkusen have been
Bayern
good.
in all of this?
Uh, So I don't think Bayern are going to stay fourth for a long time, but they have some
Absolutely
squad
not.
issues. So they have some squad issues. They had some squad building issues as well, which maybe we can get to at a later episode. But they're not going to stay fourth, man. Like
And it's more of a
they
need
have too
for
much quality.
fine tuning than complete overhaul. They have what needs to be. They have the pieces. They just needs to put them in place. So Bayern are, I don't think, in trouble, but they could be much better right now
Yeah.
at this moment in time.
So I think that leaves us with League One, the Uber Eats League. And if the television
Yeah.
broadcasters are mulling over, forking over 650 million, there is a very good chance that League One may not get telecasted in a lot of places this season because nobody wants to, pay the damn, broadcasting rights fee that League One is asking. If the television is not going to cover that, I don't think they warrant a place in our episode as well.
I read it here somewhere that Saudi League has twice the viewership as Liga 1 and 2
Oh,
combined.
wow.
So that talks a lot.
Damn. That's just brutal, man. Just take
No
Mbappe out
one,
of
no
the
one wants to
equation.
watch. No one wants to watch Mbappe dribbling past French farmers, I suppose.
To be honest, the
Uh,
league is better
No
defensively than
disrespect
that. It's
to
just not well balanced.
Yeah, no disrespect to League One players. I am pretty sure they're all very good.
good.
Okay, and yes,
Weekend
coming to
fixtures. Some
the
cracking
best
fixtures.
fixture of this weekend, we have the London Derby. Chelsea versus Arsenal. So I just want to tell you guys that I started supporting Chelsea since a very young age, and I don't have much, as such footballing reasons to support Chelsea. I just like the color blue, and I like this guy, black giant guy who scored goals and celebrated like mad, Didier Drogba. And this fixture, Chelsea versus Arsenal, throughout my life growing up as a Chelsea fan, was joy for me. Was entirely something that I look forward to because it would be a hammering, and that has changed of late. Not even of late, since the past 5 years, Arsenal has been having the edge over us. Without being a clearly better team, let's say 2017-18, Chelsea won the league in 2017, and even then Arsenal did beat Chelsea. But even then, arguably Chelsea were the better team. But oh, how times have changed and tables have turned, and this, sadly, but I must admit, is a fixture where we are going in as the underdogs. Chelsea are the underdogs, and bad times we are living in, and times will change. Revolution shall rise again. Inkilab Sindabad. But this particular fixture, I do think that we don't have the edge over Arsenal anymore. They have a number. They have been beating us pretty comprehensively over the past few seasons. But this time around, it's a completely new team. So it's kind of unpredictable. But I still do think that Arsenal are way more refined. And unless Pochettino brings a surprise, sadly, my fellow Chelsea fans, we are taking another L.
Yes, I also want to point out the evolution, like you pointed out with this fixture, right? So we know Chelsea have been in trouble the last 2 years, and Arsenal have had this steady growth under Arteta. Uh, like you have people dismissing it, but it's undeniable, right? I think we have reached an inflection point where, like Arsenal, like you pointed out, they are so refined that the you know their status in this fixture is actually on the ascendancy, and
Yes.
to a point where it is at its peak. On the other hand, the reverse for Chelsea, right? And it has
Yeah.
literally taken like our entire adolescence for that to happen, because it was Chelsea thrashing Arsenal. Then
Week
the
in, week
last few
out.
years Arsenal
Drogba
was still,
has more
yeah.
goals against Arsenal than matches played, I think.
Yeah. Wow. So Arsenal were still figuring out, which means they were never at their best. Now we are at a point where Arsenal are at their best and Chelsea are at their worst. I think that's saying something in terms of how the two teams have, come through in the last 5 years. Insane.
Yeah. I do
So
hope to once go back to the nostalgic days where when we face them, we just, we wait eagerly so that we can thrash them and brag about it later to their fans. I hope times will
And when
change.
we
They always do.
and when United used to top tables at one stage.
yeah.
That's the life. Yeah, I just want
Uh,
to
We
the
have to
other
wait a
quickly
long
pitch in.
way,
I know it's
Andal.
yeah, I know it's football zone. I just want to quickly pitch in with a breaking update on cricket. Temba Bavuma is not feeling well. He's under the weather and he's not going to be playing today's match versus England.
Oh,
And that probably
that
just
is
confirms our prediction that England will.
prediction.
Yeah, England will
that is
probably
not good
15
news
goals.
for South Africa.
Kendall, who's replacing him? Who's the captain? Who's in the
I'm
playing?
not sure who's replacing him, but Markram is expected to captain. Yeah, Markram is
Okay.
going to be the
Makram is a
captain.
good fight.
But yeah, he's. I mean, he's anyway captained South Africa in the past as
Yeah,
well, so
and
he's
he is
fine.
also one of those who really takes to the responsibility. Like he's like MS Dhoni in that regard, right? Like you
Yeah,
make him
yeah.
captain, you throw him,
Down the order,
in the
up the
deep
order.
waters,
Anyway,
and he knows what he's doing. Like
yeah.
that's good stuff. The other two fixtures, there is not much to talk here other than the fact it has potential implications on the top of the table. Barcelona is third, I think Athletic is fifth. Same with Milan and Juventus. Milan is at
Yeah.
the top, Juventus in the top four. I think that concludes our round of
I will just
fixtures.
interject with
There's
one
actually two
point. There
fixtures
are way
in
too
PL
many
that I just wanted
injuries.
to quickly cover, Priska. Yeah, Deva, you go
One
ahead,
second,
please.
BS. Sorry. There are a lot of injuries in Barcelona squad at the moment. I don't expect them to win against Athletic Club. Considering there's no proper right back right now because of Kunde's injury. Cancelo is there, but there's no cover for Cancelo. With Kunde's injury and injury of injury of Sergio Roberto as well. a lot of injuries at the moment. So let's see what happens.
The
VS.
two fixtures that I wanted to mention, one is a Merseyside derby. I just want to mention it as a Merseyside derby
Yeah,
because of the fan fight involved. It is a clear Liverpool win, as it has always been
Liverpool.
for
Yeah.
the recent
Also, why
history.
I didn't.
Second one, very interesting fixture is Man City versus Brighton. And this is an interesting fixture because of Brighton. Brighton are losing against low blocks, teams who are not taking the game to them, teams who are sitting back and absorbing the pressure. Brighton have had issues. But then on the opposite end, against team who tried to play football against them, they have been weirdly highly successful. So this is a very, very unpredictable game. There is a chance that Brighton might beat City. There is a very minor chance that Brighton might even thrash City. There is every chance that City might beat Brighton. So completely unpredictable. And
I
this
see like a
fixture
high
favors.
scoring game, man.
It might be, it might not be even. That's how unpredictable this is because of Brighton being good against the good teams and not as good against the lower
I'm
placed
expecting
teams.
something like a 3-5, man. Like 3
I'm
points,
expecting
Brighton.
a 2-3-4 in favor of City, but it's going to be a tough fixture, and it pleases the ones at the top. Liverpool, Spurs, they're all going to be happy that Brighton are facing City this weekend. That's it.
So yeah, for the last segment last week in pro wrestling, Raw. I watched Raw. Did any of you watch? If not, I can take the lead on this one. Candolph, Dave.
I did
Go
watch
for,
Raw
go
as
for
well,
it.
but you can take the
Cool.
lead here.
And Crown Gel. So SmackDown happened like a couple of hours back. We were pretty much putting the episode together when SmackDown was going on. So I do not know what went down there. Uh, if at all anything, I just expect like a one additional, card added to Crown Jewel based on SmackDown. So the first match that I want to quickly touch upon is Ricochet and Nakamura. It feels like a step down for Nakamura after the epic rivalry that he had with Seth Rollins up until the last pay-per-view at Fastlane. But that said, Ricochet is somebody that who does not put anything less than a 5-star matchup, right? And this one was no different. And I actually had picked out this part that I wanted to, share screen and show, but in the interest of time, I'm not gonna do that. But where essentially Ricochet, climbs up the railing and goes to the top of that audience, viewing thingy that you see Shane McMahon get on every now and then, right? And then he jumps off Nakamura. That was a cool spot. But despite that, as expected, Nakamura, I think he put Ricochet through a table and then did his Kinsasa, and he had a very clean win. So clearly, like they're gonna make Nakamura look strong. I don't know where they are getting at with this. Maybe an eventual intercontinental, challenge or something. But I thought that was a pretty solid match. Probably the match of the night, purely on technical terms, right?
I mean,
And yeah,
both are
Candles.
acrobatically amazing as
Yeah,
well, right? So it
yeah.
must have been a treat to watch. I didn't catch that match, but
You
yeah,
should check
I
it out.
hope I hope Shinsuke is still speaking in Japanese with
Yes,
subtitles.
yes. They have figured out
Yes.
that finally after 5, 6 years. So this
Yeah.
one, so on the look of the headlines, this should not mean much, right? So Giovanni Vinci and Kaiser are just the henchmen to Gunther as part of Imperium. But if you watched Raw lately, like they've been building this tension between Giovanni and Ludwig Kaiser. So the pecking order is Gunther, Kaiser, and Giovanni is somewhere like along with Chelsea, right? Somewhere near the bottom. So lately, like there is a lot of undercurrent. There is a lot of undercurrent going on there. Kaiser gets mad at Vinci for no obvious reason, but Vinci comes back and helps Kaiser win the game. Yeah, Dave.
Something interesting to mention here is that you can see that pecking order in the way they are presented as well. Like I
Yeah.
think last week, Kaiser had an entire video package for him,
Oh yeah.
which was surprising to see. I think they want him to make him a big
Break a
star.
single star, man. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
like.
yeah,
He has the
eventually,
looks, he has the charisma, and he
and
has
he has the
pretty
mic skill as well.
great skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
He is gonna thrive, man, when he becomes a single
yeah,
star.
yeah.
So him and Montez Ford are two people. I can't wait for them to get out of the tag team division and just fight it out as single star. So Giovanni has a match against Gargano next week. Gunther came and said, "Hey, Kaiser, it's your responsibility to make sure Gargano gets stretched out." But it's actually Giovanni competing the match. So a lot of interesting undercurrent. I think Imperium is gonna implode. It's a matter of who turns on who first.
So something interesting you see ever since Triple H has taken up the reins, that you see all of these very little subtle teases and
Yeah, yeah,
layered
absolutely love.
storytelling, a lot of layered storytelling going on across all
Yeah,
three brands, in fact in NXT as well, which
totally.
is really good to see. Like WWE for the past 15-20 years have been this company which has spoon fed and insulted the intelligence of the audience. It is very nice to see that they're putting much more subtle storylines
Yeah,
these days.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And they are building characters within stables, right? So, which used to be like tried once a while, but never took off really. I think Triple H is doing that really nicely, like building real good characters within either face stables or heel stables. I think absolutely thrilled and excited for how it's going to pan out in the future as well. And one thing which I want to call out is that WWE hasn't changed a bit in the way they appropriate people from different backgrounds and heritages and countries. They will probably always pair a black person with a black person, like take the case of Bobby Lashley and and the stable that he's trying to
Yes,
create.
yeah.
And you can feel the same with Imperium as well here, right? It's straight. If even if you look at the names, the ring names that they are under, it's straight out of World War II, cookbook, right? So it feels like you got some men sent from Adolf Hitler to the US to fight in a wrestling ring. So it feels almost like that. You have a person named Gunther, and then you have Vinci, and who's probably from Mussolini's Italy in World War II, and then you have someone named Kaiser. So I think this appropriation is something which probably hasn't changed in WWE, stereotyping US versus the rest. Yeah, it's amazing to watch, but just an interesting call out I wanted to make, that something which is probably flavor of WWE for a while.
Just to
If
add
it ain't
on
broke, don't fix,
slightly
guys.
something else. Yeah. Also, one thing just to add on. Good thing is that, like Khandal mentioned just now, they are building characters within stables, because the entire point of a stable is to elevate everyone who is a part of the stable. So, even in Bloodline, now you have a proper main eventer in Jey Uso. Roman Reigns is still at the top of his game. They're building another main eventer in Solo Sikoa. I feel eventually he will become a main eventer. Jimmy Uso, I think, is going to falter back to mid card eventually, but hopefully, hopefully he will find his feet somewhere. So yeah, good thing that they're building characters in within stables.
Yeah. So Gunther versus Big Bronson Reed, we actually ended up taking a lot more time on his henchman than I had expected. So I'll quickly touch on this contest. So Gunther hasn't faced anybody quite like Bronson Reed throughout the 500 plus days of terror reign that he has had, right? Nobody expected Bronson Reed to actually, win this match. But the way that he was showcased, I think this was one of the few instances, uh, along with Chad Gable, where you saw Gunther's mental fortitude getting questioned. I thought that was an amazing, like adding to Dave's point of WWE and Triple H adding those subtle touches to the storylines, right? Even though there was never a question of title changing hands, you still like you just want to what maybe they just might, you never know, because it's not like Gunther has like a potential successor identified, so you never know who's gonna take the title off him. And they really build that matchup well in that aspect. And in the end, he actually power slammed the Giant and had a clean victory, whilst making Bronson Reed look good. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that
think
brings
you
us
would be
to
hard pressed to find a single bad Gunther match in that sense.
yeah, I know, right? If he were in AEW, he'd be getting 5 stars from Dave Meltzer's. That's the only thing that's missing. So that brings us to Raw's main event. I'm not gonna do any. Okay, fine. Sorry, guys. I didn't realize the headlines themselves had spoilers. So let's move on. That was my bad. So I'm gonna move to Crown Jewels match card so far. Uh, let's come to Roman Reigns versus LA Knight at the end. We'll finish in a couple of minutes. Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre. Again, solid storytelling. If you watch Raw, like there was actually this really nice plot twist that Drew McIntyre chatting up with Rhea Ripley. So there is a very real question that he might actually join Judgment Day, and Judgment Day might just come out and help him win. Against Rollins at Crown Jewel, whilst Damian Priest holding the Money in the Bank contract. I just love all the suspense that we have in store there. And the women's matchup, it's going to be a cracker once again, simply because it's 5 brute forces in WWE just thrown in the ring together, right? I strongly have a feeling we'll see at the end of the match whoever is the winner, Jade Cargill coming in and, sort of either attacking them or having a standoff with the winner. I'm gonna throw that out as my prediction for the end of the match at Crown Jewel when it comes to the Women's World Championship. And Rey Mysterio versus Logan Paul. I have a feeling this might have actually been made official in the SmackDown that happened a couple of hours ago. None of us have watched it, so we
Yeah.
don't know. That brings us to creme de la creme.
Also,
Roman Reigns versus
I
LA
think,
Knight. Mhm.
yeah, one second, Chris, 1 second here. I think Logan Paul is winning this match if it happens.
Yeah,
He has taken a lot of L's from the start of his career in WWE. I think he's due a win, and Rey Mysterio is the perfect
foil
candidate to
for
put him over. Yeah,
yeah.
put him over, get him that win. He can carry that US title around in his streams and all, get a lot of mainstream publicity for WWE. So I think he's likely winning that. Also, there's a, like you just said, we might just see this that Damian Priest gets kicked out of the of Judgment Day, and McIntyre joining the Judgment Day, something like that, because of the Money in the Bank. That will be an interesting thing to look at as well. Sorry, take it away.
Yeah.
I hope there is no feud brewing, between. I'm not sure, so please correct me. Between Logan Paul and Dominic, any history between these two guys?
Not really.
I
They're
feel
just
there is.
two jerks. They'll
Yeah,
make good
I
tag
think there
team
is some
partners, kind of.
scope for a jerk versus jerk kind of situation with Rey Mysterio likely being beaten by Logan Paul there, and the dad son equation and everything
Nah,
else coming. Yeah,
not in the
probably
near future, kind of.
not in the
Yes.
near future, but there is scope for it, I guess.
Not with the current heat Dom is getting. For sure.
Absolutely not. Yeah, Dom cannot
Moving
be
on,
faced
so
anytime soon.
yeah, Roman
Also,
Reigns
just
versus AJ
saying,
Knight.
yeah, just saying, Dom is probably the most improved wrestler in the last 1 year.
Yeah, yeah. I think his in-ring ability is sort of getting overshadowed by the heat he's getting on the mic. So lastly, so we are slightly out of time. So Roman Reigns versus LA Knight. I think this is the culmination of a year of the IWC and then the actual crowd rallying in support of LA Knight. Safe to say this one has all of our approval, regardless of result, which probably Roman Reigns is gonna win. I think this is a massive moment, a massive win for not just LA Knight and the whole idea of Vince's idea of a main eventer versus the fans' idea of a main eventer, right? It's very nice to see this happening sort of organically. We have had this happen multiple times before. CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Kofi Kingston. But there was a lot more push from the audience for it to make that happen. But here I see WWE actually reciprocating, realizing what a crown jewel that they have in their hands in LA Knight, and sort of giving what the fans want without us begging and screaming for it, which is usually how these breakout stars are built in WWE. I strongly feel we should do a special episode before this matchup, Gandalf and Dave. Like the rise of LA Knight is something that I want to cover.
Let's
Definitely,
do a
definitely.
let's do a special. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I think it's been phenomenal from LA Knight, the way he has come up, and I think this is where it needed to culminate. And what a match! Looking forward to it. Yeah. So brilliant in all. I think we had a fabulous discussion from World Cup point of view. Cricket that's going on. That's the hot one right now. Football, great updates. Thank you, VS, Dave, Kriska, and finally, as always, we close out with something which is very, very professional. So pro wrestling it is, and we look forward to all of the other updates coming up next week. I think we will be at a very good we'll be in a very good space next week with regards to the Cricket World Cup, and heading into the business end of the tournament. We will probably have more certainty about who the semi-finalists will be. But knowing BCCI and the way they have done IPL in recent years, I think they will keep us guessing till the last match. That's my guess. So thank you all so much. Absolutely, and looking forward to the next time.
Bye, guys. I'll see you again.